8:45. So I think he's not here, but I'd like to thank you, Nate, for his past effort and be a chairman of this committee. Roll call, please.
Hushain Zagami,
Here.
Tom Hubbard is absent. Roy Mumford,
Here.
Nate Feeney,
Here.
and Luis Serrano is.
That's me.
Hey.
Do you want to say your name?
Yeah, you wanna, so I don't kill it?
It's Luis Lopes-Serrao.
Okay, we'll just say Luis.
Yeah, I'll get the idea.
Good.
Do you think we can have a name tag next?
Yep, I will have his name tag next time.
All right. Item 4, approval of 4/12/21 minute of the meeting.
I would like to move to approve items 4 and 5 jointly.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a question or discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was for item 4 and 5. Is there a public comment? No public comment. Thank you. Is anybody on the Zoom? No?
Yeah, but nobody's asking to speak. So.
Okay. And nobody on the telephone either, right?
Nope.
Item 6, acknowledgement of water and sewer permit and application. What's your wishes? You have 6809 North Apache Lane and 7306 Zinder Street, 5109 Luke Street. You just acknowledge this? Is that,
It's just acknowledged.
and plus some more on the other page? Is there anybody?
I'll make a motion to acknowledge it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Education presentation and report. Item 7, presentation and overview of municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 report. Michael?
Yep. Link took me to the wrong one here. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So, Village of Weston is a WPDS permit holder. So per that admin code, we are the owner operator of a municipal separate storm sewer system, or MS4. So we're required to provide the DNR with an annual report, regarding our stormwater ordinances, our enforcement, basically what we're doing to help ensure that we are improving the water quality of our rivers, lakes, streams. What are we doing for runoff management? How are we handling, the water that does go into the Wisconsin River, Eau Claire River, Cedar Creek primarily in our jurisdiction. So I guess I attached the report. It's not overly exciting as far as, governmental reports go, but one of the big things that is going on right now is the Wisconsin River Basin had a phosphorus study done. So it's a TMDL, a total maximum daily load of phosphorus. So for those of you new to the committee, we have an engineering planning grant from the DNR to update our comprehensive stormwater model for the Village of Weston, which Strand Associates is currently modeling for us. So as part of that model, it'll tell us where we sit. So whether we are doing well or if we need to be making improvements to the water we discharge to, our water bodies in the village.
But to be clear, we are actually improving the water. I tease.
Yeah, yes, ideally, we keep improving the water. We, for any street reconstruction project, anything like that, we have to provide the DNR with a stormwater management plan to show that we're not backsliding. If anything, we're maintaining status quo, but ideally they like to see that we're improving the stormwater treatment. Treatment's typically done by filtration of stormwater runoff, so
Thank you.
using grass swale ditches, detention ponds so that solids and other accumulated debris can settle out before it's discharged. Those are the two primary ways that we do treat stormwater. If we had less right of way to work with, we'd probably look at, underground cisterns and other type of treatment options, but we typically can satisfy the requirements just by using our ditches and pond systems throughout the village. So,
And everyone's still happy from Crestwood Acres that the water quality is still good.
good. Yeah. So, a recent reconstruction project that is about to launch, is the Crestwood Acres neighborhood. That was one where historically it would be a rural section, a ditch neighborhood. And say in the early 2000s, the village would have come in, put in traditional curb and gutter, and we would have piped water away as fast as possible from the subdivision. With the new regulations in place, we have to, we wouldn't be able to meet the current treatment that the ditches provide if we just piped everything away. So we're left with the option of trying to figure out how to maintain that ditch profile for the filtering, or we have to typically buy a property and put in a pond somewhere downstream. So for that project, we kept with the ditch theme and kind of the vegetative conveyance of the water. So I guess I'll just cover a couple of the highlights. One thing we have to do here is provide educational opportunities, the public education outreach. Last year was a tough year with COVID. Usually there's some Boy Scout groups or farmers market events that we, take the street sweeper to, the leaf vacuums. So we did still have some things where, just through our annual spring, fall yard waste pickup, we do send out those newspaper articles. We have the information on our website kind of saying what we do, why we do it. A big part of that is collecting the leaves. It gets they have a large phosphorus content in them, so we are able to remove that from the roadsides and washing down into our waterways. We also are participants in the North Central Wisconsin Stormwater Coalition. So there, we do have other entities that we look to run various programs, go out to, historically it'd be, Farm Progress Days or Central Wisconsin Fair, various events where they can go and educate people on stormwater runoff and what it does, even at your own house, picking up after your pets when they, do something, or washing your car in the grass versus on your driveway. Just some of those small things do have an impact overall. Or even educating people that a storm drain doesn't go to a treatment plant or anything. If you put garbage or a soda bottle down a storm drain, it goes straight to the river. It doesn't get filtered out anywhere else. So sometimes it's just that level of education too for people. They also go to river cleanups or some of the high schools, elementary schools, and just teach children, the students about stormwater management and somewhat of the water life cycle. So I guess that's that. So then we have to do an outfall inspection every year. We have 16 major outfalls in the village. So we pick a time during typically like July, August, when it's been dry for a while. And if there's water running, usually that means there's something happening that shouldn't be happening, or we've got a spring-fed lake somewhere. So we do occasionally find that there's somebody, illegally dumping something down our storm drains, but it's not often, I guess. We've had a couple of years where we found that. We've contacted the individuals, traced the discharge back upstream, and found the people or the company responsible for it, and we've got those actions corrected. So see, I don't know, if there's. And then, yeah, the DNR just asks questions about our salt use, how much, education we're teaching our own staff, street sweepings, that type of information. But, so there's a lot of information there, not necessarily trying to go over everything, but in case anybody has any questions about what we do, it'd probably be good to give the committee an overview of where we're at and why we do what we do. So if people ever ask, why do I pay my stormwater utility? This report kind of covers the main reason why we have a stormwater utility and what those functions of the utility to, help improve the water quality in the village.
Michael, when is that modeling project going to be completed?
It should be completed, I'd have to look at, it's either later this summer or early fall.
Because they're working on it for a long time, are they?
Yeah, well, they started last year, so I think they've had 18 months to do it,
Okay,
so.
did you ask them and let us know next time? We'd like to see the final result.
Yeah, and, I included in here. So part of our, report, so yeah, this is actually it. So part of this report that we submitted came from Strand, so, so this portion of the report and on is actually the draft document that they have put together for us.
Yep.
So, so they are producing, I guess, a work product, but yeah, I can have them.
And then the other question I have, how often we clean up our basin?
Like the storm sewer inlets,
Storm sewer basin, yep.
we try to get it on about a 3-year schedule. That's not, that's something we know we need to improve upon. We haven't met that goal. Last year, we actually got quite a bit done. But, so those are other things too internally where, when we fall short, we tell the DNR we fell short and then we, figure out how we can, make sure we prioritize that for the following year. So if you remember last month, we talked about our valve turning. That was one thing when, we kept talking to the DNR about our water utilities. We weren't quite getting all the valves, water valves turned on the 5-year cycle like they should be. So we finally got that in place. So same thing with our inlet cleaning. We'll make sure we're prioritizing that as well.
All right, thank you. Anybody have a question for Michael? All right, thanks. You don't need approval on that, do you?
Nope, that was just for your information.
Okay. Item 8, the staff report. Again, let's get back to you, I think, Michael.
Yep.
Why don't you cover item 8, 9, and 10, please?
Yeah, I will. Where did that go? There.
That's what
Okay.
I'm gonna do.
Yeah, Dan will do his part and Josh will cover his,
Yeah,
but,
9 and 10?
yeah, so just the street projects as update here. The Weston School neighborhood, Von Kennel Street was getting paved today, this afternoon for the final layer. The trees were being planted by Revi and, I forget who the subcontractor is that's doing the ditch restoration, but they should be getting those cleaned up.
So
Yeah.
how much are those 3 each? Finally, what number they come out with? For each tree, the cost of it?
For each tree.
Don't know. That's okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look back at the,
What type of tree they put in there?
so it depended on the type that was cut down. So there's some maples, there's some flowering crabs. I'm trying to think what else, maybe an elm.
Is it approved by the residents?
Yeah, so it was approved by the residents, yeah.
Thanks.
I mentioned the Crestwood Acres project. The contractor for that project is Switlick and Sons. They've indicated starting May 12th with some removals on Rodney Street. So they have the project split up into 4 phases with Rodney being phase 1 and then Kirk Street as phase 2. Then I believe it was about a month or so that they figured for each phase with East Everest, Douglas, and Robin, I believe, is phase 3, and Randy J is phase 4. So their estimated completion date is around the middle to end of September right now, so, which falls in line with their substantial completion per the contract, so. Hopefully, things go well and stays on schedule there. Then for Birch Street reconstruction, Becker Hoppy, was out, completed their survey work and they're coordinating the soil borings, either yet this week or next week. And once we get the subsurface conditions handled, understanding of those, we'll get together on the preliminary design layout of that project. For the safety building, there's just a couple punch list items being wrapped up, and then I'll be getting the landscaping finished up probably around the first week of June with the tree planting. Then the new municipal center building, the village board did approve the construction contract with Myron, their April meeting. So we'll be moving forward with that. Have a meeting set up later in May, kind of a pre-construction meeting with Myron and our architect on that project.
Yeah, let's keep that municipal building on the agenda for every meeting. Right?
Yeah. Then our utility projects, the Cedar Creek Interceptor Access Road. So I guess for Roy, Luis, the Cedar Creek Interceptors are one of our main sanitary sewer mains that goes from Camp Phillips Road. And it kind of follows the Cedar Creek out towards Business 51 by Wasatile. So currently there's about a half-mile stretch that is inaccessible for us for maintenance purposes. So we're working on getting a access road created. So right now, the engineering firm MyTech is who we're working with. And they're finishing up the easement documents. We can take those to the residents and make sure we have the land access figured out before we start putting in the access road, so. The Callan Ave Utility Extension Project, the multi-use path should be getting paved later this week, and then we have a walkthrough on Friday to create a punch list on that one. Ryan Street, Apache Lane Utility Extension. So we have some further discussion in the packet about the special assessments on that project, but be looking to finish up the special assessment report in the next week or so, and then looking to have a special assessment meeting potentially the week of May 31st. So I don't know if everybody wants to maybe check their schedules. I'll send an email out too, but just want to know what your availability is, maybe that Wednesday or Thursday of the week of the last week of May here. And the Tiny Tricia lift station, just finishing up the final site design, and should be getting that out to bid yet this week. And then wells 7 and 8, there's a contract amendment in the packet for the final design of the pump house and the related site improvements. Last week we approved or last month, the committee approved the contract amendment for the wells themselves, and those have been submitted to the DNR. This contract would be for the pump house where the treatment of the wells water would be taking place, the structures and all the associated systems with that.
So you have a treatment plan for 7 and 8.
Correct, yep.
Is that part of a well house or what?
No, so the wells will be two separate, could jump ahead here. I thought I had a map in there. But the wells are in two separate locations and they'll pump to a central plant.
Where is that central plant gonna go?
It'll be on kind of the southwest corner of the disc golf course parking lot. I can, give me a second here.
Maybe you wanna get us some detail on that, how it look and where it is and
Yeah.
appearance of it, the height of it. and that.
Yeah, so that'll come back as part of the design, the actual design of it will be what it looks like. But as far as location goes, those are kind of predetermined based on where some of the test well data was taken from.
But that building gonna be very visible from Camp Phillips Road,
Yeah, it will be.
so.
No, we'll bring that back when, it's to that point.
Okay.
I had asked if they actually had anything available yet, and they said, no, they're not that. We didn't approve the contract for them to do any of the work yet, so they really don't have any concepts.
I thought I read someplace they said it's gonna be masonry block.
Yeah, they're going into it with the assumption that it'd be a masonry structure. Correct. Lost my train of thought here. So I guess that was that part, and then, I guess I just want to touch on, I know trustee Feeney mentioned, he'd asked about, the history of kind of our street maintenance, where our money has gone. So, did ask our GIS tech, Will Harrison, to work on some, mapping that, we'd eventually get up on the website where people could click and see the various elements of, our street maintenance. Share. I don't know if you are able to click on the link and it doesn't look like it's loading. We had some GIS issues earlier today.
I had that issue the other day. I checked out the map
Yeah,
when I first saw the packet, it was working, and then all of a sudden it stopped working.
yeah,
Technology,
That's about
it's great when it works.
yeah, so, there we go. So the 2019 data loaded here. So if you clicked on a street, say, Riverbend Road, you get the street name and kind of its maintenance history. So it received an asphalt overlay in 2019. It was crack sealed in 2020. Then another crack sealed maintenance is planned for 2021. So maybe if you. So I guess this is just kind of an overview. Here's what, sometimes it's hard for us as staff to know what the general public would be looking for, or what even, you might be interested in learning. I can look at this and I know what every street is. One thing I noticed is we could probably do a better name just putting street names on it. But we look at this all day, every day. And so if you have feedback, hopefully it'd be working. I guess if we produce a product, I just want to make sure it's useful and beneficial for people who want to click around and see what's going on in the village and where, their tax dollars have been spent. So this one in particular would be for street maintenance, so.
I personally think it's really nice. I don't know how much people are gonna click on it, but
Yes.
I think it gives people perspective as to when people say, well, my road's not getting fixed. Well, there's all these roads that have been fixed, my roads in the future, things like that. If anything, I would like to see, just because I don't understand it, is if there's a way to put in like a definitions or explain what chip seal is, explain what the overlay is, so that when a person sees that, they're like, well, what exactly is that that's being done or has been done?
No,
Otherwise, I think it's very informative.
okay. Those are, I guess that's what we're looking for, because, we sometimes we get engrossed in it and we know it frontwards, backwards, inside out, but yet we don't know what questions people who aren't in that environment would have, so.
At the very least, this gives them a starting point.
Yes, that's true. Okay. So I guess that's it for me on my portion.
Okay. Item 9, street operation update.
Yep, if you looked at your packets, I had some pictures in there, different things that we've been doing, and like I said, last meeting, spring came early, so we managed to get a lot of stuff done. We're kind of starting to switch into our summer stuff. We're starting on some storm sewer on Zadra Street today, actually. Got some more concrete to pour at Kennedy. We did a lot of work on the gravel roads that we have and the gravel shoulders by grading them up and reclaiming some of the sods that had a lot of gravel in them and then tilling them with a Harley rake on the new skid steer. And it helped us on our gravel roads because we managed to get a 2% crawling on them again, so they're gonna shed water and hopefully hold up better. We might get some complaints about dust a little bit if it stays dry, but in the long run, it really helped us. So Just a lot of things on the plate. It's gonna be a busy summer again, but, the tribe's doing a good job. They did the landscaping work here by the safety building, rented a hydro seeder and hydro seeded it, placed all the black dirt, so it's a good group. They're not afraid to take anything on, so we're just gonna keep on moving ahead.
Did they seed that pond too?
That's just like a swale more or less that goes down to a beehive drain.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we actually got the hydro seeder from Riverview Construction. They've got it and they kind of fitted us up with what we needed for the hydro seed and the slurry that you use on it. And they've got different types for different slopes. That's what we ended up doing. And then we did end up putting some matting down in the main where the flume drops off. And there's kind of like a channel that runs down. And we had to mat that with some straw E-mat then just to stop it from eroding. So it's starting to sprout.
So this is not designed for infiltration.
No, that is designed to,
Drainage.
nope,
Okay,
there's storm in the middle of them.
okay. They did that just last week?
Week before, I think on Friday.
I drive by there a couple times a day. Okay,
It all blends together, Shane.
it was two questions, that's it. Yeah, it looked nice, the picture, so I'm sure it's, hydro seed usually work pretty good.
Thank you.
Anything else on that?
No,
Yeah, the utility operation, Josh?
Yeah, our guys are busy bees now with, we have lots of diggers locates. We had about 760 last month. Another 45 work orders, some of the typical stuff for meter changeouts and communication issues and, maybe some water quality questions. As part of our well 7 and 8 discussion, we do have a meeting coming up where we're gonna be getting after some of our SCADA system upgrades. Something that we need to implement for our kind of overall system-wide to get everything talking a little better. Some of our wells, mains, meters type stuff, a lot of general maintenance items at the wells. Big item, our water main unidirectional flushing is underway. It's kind of similar to that overlay map of the roads. We do have residents can jump on and see kind of where we're currently flushing, as well as where our next setups are gonna be. I know we get a lot of calls from people asking where we're gonna be next. So hopefully it can minimize some of the issues if people are running water. We don't have too many dirty loads of laundry if people are washing clothes during the day. So we were able to hit a few other items off of our DNR sanitary survey, like chemical feed labeling. Last month we did, prior to our unidirectional flushing starting, we finished our valve exercising program for the year. Like Michael mentioned, it's kind of a 5-year cycle. We want to get all of our valves exercised. So once we get through a full cycle, we don't have some of those old rickety ones that we got to replace again. So as part of that, we actually did have a valve exercising demo. We do hit some where it's just impossible to turn them. The guys as strong as they think they are, we'd rather have it use mechanical than their own brute strength. So we did have that. So we're kind of maybe eyeballing, maybe picking up a valve exerciser that comes with a trailer hitch. And we got to get a few of them done. We can hook up and go. We do have a water main valve replacement tomorrow. If you haven't noticed, over off of Camp Phillips coming up from Schofield Ave. We had one leaky valve this year, so far. So yeah, if you're going around the area, we'll have a lane closure going up Schofield Ave, or Camp Phillips.
That's by US Bank.
Yeah,
So
right.
just south of Schofield Ave.
Yeah. Lift stations, nothing too bad, just some general maintenance stuff on some cabling and some floats needing to be cleaned. Did a few televising locations, no private well permits. Kind of hit our, miscellaneous monthly activities, entering our well data for the DNR. Some upgrades to some lighting, continuing. Starting to work on our risk and resilience assessment here. That's due in June. Hopefully in the next week or so, we're gonna kind of finalize that and get it submitted so we can get our certification on that. which will roll into our emergency response plan that's due towards the end of the year as well. Our annual water report is finished. We do have a translated version to Hmong that I'm waiting to hear with, or meet with Yi on, to finalize that. That should be hopefully going out in the next couple weeks here. Likewise for our annual compliance maintenance annual report for our sanitary side of things. We'll have some RFPs coming out for hydrant painting, manhole rehabilitations, as well as some sewer lining. Michael basically touched on most of the contract work. We did discuss with our operators today some final tweaks to our tiny Tricia lift station layout, so I'll get that back to our engineer, and we get that out for advertisement and bids. The rest of it's just kind of the numbers we have for our customers added, our water pumps, and some of our sanitary flows and hours, so another busy month, and looking forward to another one.
So you're all set for summer,
I guess so.
huh? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any question over item 8, 9, and 10 from staff? No? Hey, Michael, you had a change order here. Where is it?
The contract amendment,
Right.
it's number 12, sorry, on the agenda.
Contract, okay. Okay. Policy discussion and recommendation, item 11, discussion regarding drinking water quality improvement.
All right. So I guess over the last several meetings, you know, the water quality topic has come up in a couple different ways. So I guess Josh and I were kind of brainstorming some stuff. You know, we wanted to figure out the best way to review that with the committee, and especially with having some new members jump back on board here. Try to, I guess, tell the story of where we've been and where we're planning on going and what we're doing in the interim. So several years ago, we entered into a contract with Process Research Solutions to study our drinking water quality. I have the report linked here. So they had an initial report and then a phase 2 report. And, you know, so I guess a key finding was the water quality issues in the Weston water system are largely a function of microbiological influence corrosion. And I guess furthermore, the influences from the presence of iron and manganese in the wells, you know, and distribution center as well. So I guess the issues with the increased manganese and iron, I guess, creates issues. That sentence isn't right. Oh, there are possible influences from the presence of iron and manganese in the wells and distribution sets. Yes. Okay. So then the impact of those influences cause, you know, the staining of plumbing fixtures, you know, whether it's the black coloration that people might see, or even like a rust stain. You know, in their report, they mentioned that's, you know, typically the manganese or other items being trapped in the biofilm material that then precipitate themselves out. You know, and this type of corrosion can lead to the faster deterioration of hot water tanks, typically due to the microorganisms corroding the sulfate-based anodes. So it's theorized that microbial growth in the hot water systems is favored by the elevated temperatures and the longer time that that water is sitting in the tank. So the longer it's sitting there in the warm, hot water, it can, I guess it's an ideal environment for those organisms to multiply. You know, also the study found that soft and cold water had a higher potential for biofilm formation and metals corrosion due to there being higher surface area for the attachment and slow moving water. So I know when we get a lot of water quality complaints, a lot of times it happens right after somebody installed a water softener. So a lot of times that also it tends to remove the chlorine, right, from people's water too. So when that disinfection ends up in your water tank, there's now, there's bacteria all around us floating in the air. So when that bacteria meets the water, there's no longer the chlorine to kind of kill off that water, so it starts forming also on the plumbing fixtures, so typically I believe that forms like a pinkish bacteria.
Michael.
Yep.
Just a comment for your information.
Yep.
I was helping replace the water tank at the Patron Restaurant. We pumped the water out of a tank, old tank, completely. And reconnected to start the water. It was all rusty water filled with iron.
Yep.
And we pump it again, 100%. Didn't make a change, still was the same. And it took a lots of effort. And I believe it was also coming from the pipe.
Yep.
Because you were opening the water, it was coming through. So it's,
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you, we've got the, purest spring water in the world.
don't know, you can't, I know you're not saying that, but I'm just telling you my experience just 2 weeks ago practically. And it is not just that place, I'm sure there's other place in the village, so,
Yeah,
okay.
so,
So if I could
Yeah,
just,
go ahead.
I guess, obviously there's differences in all facilities. I don't know if does Patron have a recirculation system of some kind?
They don't, I don't believe so.
And I don't know what their piping's made of. I mean, there's a lot of localized
Copper.
things that come into play. But I know that the main message in this water quality study is we need to focus on cleaning our wells, getting the manganese and iron out of the system, even getting ourselves weaned off of the phosphate feed, by putting in iron and manganese removal so that we can get rid of this food supply for these microorganisms. And again, going back to Michael's comment, and groundwater is not sterile. I think that's one thing that maybe people expect that, there's nothing in there, but there is microbiology there that is not harmful to us. But, the reason we add chlorine for the disinfectant, of course, is that there are disease-causing things out there, which I'm sure you know very well, and that we want to avoid causing, the intestinal diseases that people used to have, 100 years ago, cholera and typhoid and those kind of things. And hopefully those things are pretty much eradicated, but we're starting to worry about a lot more things in the water. We're worried about aesthetic issues right now, I suppose, to some level. And that's what we're trying to get to a point where our water is probably the best quality we can make it. And will it ever be perfect? I'm not sure, but,
I do
we're trying to
understand.
just get everybody up to speed here on where we are, and I think it's a good idea to revisit this right now, so.
Sure,
yeah,
sure. I think what we're doing at well 7 and 8, that's the best solution. I'm hoping this discussion lead us, we do the same thing for all the wells.
Yep. Yeah.
Because, we discussed that, Keith, you and I, we discussed that, and the thing is, it's cost to fix this stuff, and what we're doing right now is just a temporary solution to it. And then, so I'm hoping that's the direction we go eventually.
yeah.
Okay, continue, thank you.
Okay, so the second impact, besides just the microbial, is the impact of chlorides in well water, increasing the potential for metals corrosion. And the impact of chlorides, is likely due to road salt, was the conclusion of that study. So last month, we were talking about our DNR study. It mentioned the high levels of sodium in our well water, or the rising levels of sodium. Sodium chloride is the salts that we use for our streets, so I think it's a fair correlation to say that as our sodium levels or our chloride levels have increased in the well water, that's a likely source of how that's happened. So I guess the recommendation from that study was to develop a salt reduction strategy to help minimize the use of road salt, particularly in areas near the wells. So, so that information kind of formed the baseline of, okay, we've got these issues, how do we go about improving our water system now? So in 2018, we then contracted with AECom to kind of go over a complete master plan for the water utility. So again, the link for that full document is there, but it's some of the highlights as far as water quality items are related is the first is the installation of wells 7 and 8. There's a need from the capacity side for having additional well water available, but also the test data of those wells showed that there was no detection of manganese in the water, and the iron was at a very low level. So the idea is once those wells are drilled, we will pump more water out of those wells and have less reliance on our wells that currently have the poor water quality. Hence, we should have better water quality in the system. And then, a second major project would be the iron and manganese removal plant for wells 1 and 5. I guess just to go back, so we have 6 wells in the village of Weston currently. One is its own system over by Cedar Creek Mall, Culver's area. If you ever notice that? That's the foremost well. That's well number 2. But then wells 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are our main system here that the majority of the village has. So wells 1 and 5 are over by Kennedy Park. So there also are 2 wells with the highest levels of manganese in the water. I guess iron as well. So I guess to help improve that water quality, we would be looking to have those 2 wells pumped to a centralized treatment plant and remove those iron and manganese. As Keith alluded to, we currently do put phosphate or a polyphosphate blend into our water system to help sequester iron and manganese. The Process Research Solutions study theorized that extra phosphate is just food for the bacteria. So it, as it sits in the pipes, it has food to eat because we're putting phosphate in the water for it. So if we are removing iron and manganese at the source, at the well, then there is no longer a need to put phosphate into the water system. So that should help reduce that the ability for that biofilm to continue to grow because there won't be as much food for it in the pipes. And then the third major project for the water quality aspect would be the iron and manganese removal for well 3, which is Mesker. So the last year we did a rehabilitation on the Mesker well. Prior to the rehab, it had an iron level around 1.75 milligrams per liter. The secondary standard for iron is 0.3 milligrams per liter, so this was about 6 times that level. The Mesker well does blend with the Sternberg well at the treatment plant, so the water leaving it is usually much less than just what the Mesker well itself is putting out. But after the rehab, the iron level did drop to about 0.88 or about half of what it was at. However, this past spring as we did our sampling, we see the iron levels are elevating again in that well. So, it's an indication that problem is in the aquifer. More than likely, it's not just a one-time thing. So again, the process of then needing to put the removal plant in place because the water we're getting out of the ground just isn't of a quality that we want to just pump straight into the system.
So Mesker and municipal, you're gonna combine them?
So Mesker and the Sternberg, they currently pump together at the treatment plant
What they do?
already. But right now, so this is one of the interesting things. The Sternberg well is probably our best water quality well. It doesn't have manganese. I don't even know if it has iron detected in it. But Mesker is one of our worst wells, and they're a quarter mile apart, if that. So, they're about the same depth. I don't know.
That's the way it works sometimes, I don't know.
They are 90 feet, I think, 90 feet.
Yeah, they're both about 92 feet deep.
Yeah.
Mesker is the worst?
Yeah.
Which one am I drinking of?
You probably get more well 6 water up on the north side of the river.
Okay, thank
which well 6 and Sternberg are the two best wells that we have. So as we, get into our operational, changes that we've made, Josh alluded to, we're in the middle of our unidirectional flushing program. In there, we valve off sections of the system so that we can create a high flow of water through the hydrants. That's meant to scour the pipe and kind of eat away anything that's, any of that biofilm or other metals that maybe have been leached into the system. So we try to flush it out. We have a turbidity meter that we take with us, and staff test the water to make sure that it is clear before they move on to the next system. So in the past, you'd kind of flush, you'd look and say, okay, the water cleared up. The guys are finding now that, historically, when what they would have considered to be clear water, once they tested it, it's not testing as clear water, it still is fairly cloudy. We think that should be helping get more of those deposits and the pipes cleaner. Over the years, as we keep doing it, it should get better and better. The well rehabilitations, mentioned in 2020, we've had the Mesker well rehabilitated and cleaned. Earlier this year, well 1, Alta Verde, and well 5, Bladel, have been rehabilitated and then put back into service. So the well rehab includes the, a cleaning of the well casing and screen, and then also a chemical treatment to help, kind of clean out the biomass deposits and mineral scale, anything that's kind of forming underground there. And then, we're doing a more routine sampling of the water from the wells to help better sense when those rehabs need to be done. So before we kind of wait until we notice the pumping levels maybe changed. Now we're trying to get it so it's not necessarily once it's so caught up that the screen is clogged, but noticing the quality of the water just in the sampling is getting to a point where it's due for another rehab. Then our pumping operations, we mentioned that the Sternberg well, Rippling Creek well are the two best water quality wells. So when our towers get to a level that calls for the wells to turn on, those two wells are the first ones pumping water into the system now, versus all the wells coming on at the same time. Also the sequencing of wells 3 and 4, they both pump to the treatment plant. Historically, they would alternate which one would pump to the treatment plant first. We've switched it, so Sternberg is always the first one to pump, and then if the demand calls for it, Mesker will pump to the treatment plant. So we should be, we're getting more of the clean water pumping out of the treatment plant versus, I guess, a 50-50 blend. And then I guess as we go through our salt reduction strategies, we've gotten to the point now where all of our plow trucks have a salt brine and pre-wet system on them. So we're able to pre-wet our salt at the spinner. This allows the salt to kind of stick to the road surface. It's not bouncing out as we're driving down the road. And we also have, I guess, kind of some feedback sensors. So as the plow truck speeds up, the spinner will go faster. As the plow truck slows down, the spinner can slow down. So that's still a little bit of a training in progress. Some of the operators who are used to always operating in manual mode and being able to just crank it up or turn it down. But I think now that every truck has it, it's getting a little more habit, I guess, for some of the drivers to get used to that.
But it still get washed off to the ditches and to the stormwater.
It will, so, but, again, one of the things I know Dan's been kind of eyeing on is, trying to get the staff to understand what is the right amount of salt. We don't need it to be dripping wet for the salt to be effective. So it's trying to get that handle on what is that right level of salting. Historically, I mean, if you drove through some of our streets, it did look like it just rained and it's, 20 degrees outside. So, we wanted to get to that point where it's clear, it's passable, but it's not necessarily, bare wet pavement.
Maybe Dan can answer this question. Tony was using beet juice what was the result of it was just try to see what the result's gonna be or what?
I worked for them, you know that, and way back, back when I started in 1990, we used calcium chloride, the pre-wet salt, when it got real cold. Then the salt brine came around. Beet juice, we actually tried, I did an experiment with some of the county roads.
Right,
If you just pre-wet salt with beet juice, it doesn't really do much. The organic, the beet juice or corn syrup, whatever they're using, is to help the salt brine stick to the salt. So typically what you're running like there, we'd had a mixture of 75% salt brine, 15% magnesium chloride, and about 10% of the beet juice, and you can mix it yourself, and that's pretty much, City of Wausau is doing the same thing. Here we were using pretty much the same thing here, and the organic is to make it stick. The one thing, this year the guys did a good job. We used more sand, Husheng, which you've gotta sweep it back up, but we managed to save quite a bit on the salt. And the price of salt last year was $90.84 a ton, and it's gonna go up 3%. So it's not just the groundwater we're worried about, it's the price. The positive thing we have in Weston is we don't have the speed that they're fighting out on the 4-lane highways.
right.
They're trying to get it to stick to the road, but the semis are blowing it off, and that's the way it's always been, at least with us. When we can get by with using salt, less salt and a little more abrasive, a little sand, because we'll have to sweep it up again, but at least we're not putting that much salt into the storm sewers and the groundwater. One of the things I see, and there's a SaltWise program that we did a training with here this winter. They're coming back, they're out of Madison. They want us and then the City of Wausau to have meetings here with our people, and they're gonna invite some of the other localities too, Weston, or Rothschild, Cronawater, and kind of talk about what we all do to try and save salt and not put as much in the groundwater.
Well, I think I commend you using less salt and more sand. I think it's just better. I know, yeah, I understand it has to be cleaned up later on, this and that, but with the salt, you can't clean it up, it's gonna be gone. That's all it is. So,
Yeah.
sorry, Michael.
No, that's fine. You know, and again, you know, I guess, mentioned just increasing our mechanical plowing ability. You know, the thing I was always taught is, you know, you don't have to use salt if you just get the snow plowed before people pack it down. So, you know, over the years, we've added, wing plows to our front end loaders, so they're able to plow the full width of the street. This past year, we replaced a plow truck with a grader. You know, the grader gives us a better down pressure so we can scrape the roads. So even if you get a little sunlight, you know, it's maybe only 20 degrees outside, but if it's sunny, you know, you can usually go out with the grader and scrape the road pretty well without having to put down any salt. You know, historically, we would dump salt, you know, 7 to 8 a.m. in the morning, let traffic work a road, and then go back in the afternoon and try to, you know, scrape it off. And, you know, it was wasteful of using salt, and also, you know, you tear up the roads if you're pushing too hard, or plow blades. So, you know, the grader is a piece of equipment meant to do that work. So by having 2 in our fleet, we can rotate them through the routes and try to, you know, it seemed to work pretty well this past winter, keeping the roads, you know, granted, we didn't get a whole lot of snow compared to most years, but I think, you know, just looking at our GPS data from snow events, we seem to be covering the roads pretty well. You know, so again, you know, just by adding those, you know, we've got 10 pieces of equipment now able to plow the full width of the road when we had 7, you know, say 3-4 years ago. So even just that's 3 more pieces of equipment getting, you know, subdivisions and other roads cleared faster during a snow event. And then just our snow storage locations. So historically, we had kept snow at the Aquatic Center parking lot, which is right next door to the Alta Verde well. And then also we were keeping snow at the Public Safety Building, which is right next to the Mesker well. So you can't help but think that caused some of those issues. So we have stopped those practices and are working on other spots to store snow. So at some point you can say, yeah, I don't know how this happened, but then again, look back at past practices and realize maybe we influenced this somehow, so. So I guess, yeah, just, I guess in conclusion, you know, that that's kind of I don't know, the 3 to 4 year recent history of where we've been and things we've been working on to improve the water quality and where we're heading hopefully in the next several years to keep things getting better, so.
All right, thank you. Any question on these items? Item 11. Item 12. Well, 7 and 8 pump house final design and bidding contract amendment.
Yeah, so this is the design amendment for AECom, for the pump house design, the site improvements. I guess all the work it takes to get the water from the wells treated and out into the distribution system. So as I mentioned earlier, well 7 and 8 will kind of be their, in separate locations, will be just the underground well aspect, which will then get pumped to the centralized plant. Where well 7 is located, it's also kind of right by the first hole of the disc golf course. So the thought is we would incorporate that location with a kind of a little shelter pavilion. Since then we can put that well location in a secured enclosed building, and the rest of that can then be attached to a pavilion that, you know, users of the park can utilize. And then the pump house would have restrooms available if anybody parking at the disc golf course wanted to use a restroom, there would be a restroom there for them to use. Yeah.
So this 132,000 does not include the construction inspection.
Correct.
So we should expect another one coming later.
So there'd be another one coming later, yeah, for the construction services.
Okay. And then this is,
I want to just back up a little bit. I was just reading through this and it says the pavilion.
Yep.
So are we talking Yellow Banks Pavilion or are we talking about adding these bathrooms to these pump houses?
So the bathrooms would be at the pump house.
What's the reference to pavilion?
The pavilion would be where on the south side of the river.
North side?
No, so all the wells are all on the south side.
Yes, but the pavilion at Yellow Banks is on the north side.
The current one is, yeah.
So is anything happening there with bathrooms?
Not on the north side of the river.
Okay. And do any other pump houses we have anywhere else in the village have bathrooms for public use?
They don't.
And who would clean these bathrooms?
Our staff would.
What staff? Park or your staff?
I guess probably.
Utility, I mean, what staff would clean?
It would likely be in the park side. We talked about actually making this pavilion a separate structure,
So the parks would be cleaning bathrooms that are our bathrooms open in parks now?
Yes.
They are. So they're back on full schedule there. So now there'd be 2 more pump houses with bathrooms to clean?
It'd be one.
One with men and women's or multi-sex?
I believe we're looking at just having two.
Unisex?
Two unisex.
And I just want to ask this, whose idea was this? Because of what?
I guess it was a thought of adding the restroom facility to the park use.
Okay.
Keith?
Yeah, when this site was purchased, it was originally purchased as a well site.
Yep.
Then there was a desire to add, this golf course idea came up, and this became the site for the disc golf park. So, I mean, in an ideal world, no, we probably wouldn't wanna intermix the 2 uses because we really shouldn't have restrooms in a well house. And that's the dilemma we'll have to work through here. I think ideally we should have the restroom and like a shelter house as a separate structure from the pump house or I should say the treatment facility. And I think that's what they were talking about, but we don't want I think somehow these got kind of combined into one or putting the restrooms maybe in a location that may not be used as easily.
Yes.
I'm thinking the restroom should really be closer to the.
Is it necessary to have a Can you just utilize temporary rental
Well, that's what we're doing now.
and continue that practice? That's why I was curious, I've been over there and.
Yeah. So there's no need, I guess, to do it, you know, so if we want to mix the, you know, eliminate bathrooms, I guess, from it, we can still do that, I mean. we
This
can
is
tell-
connected to sewer, Michael, isn't it? We have a sewer system on the Camp Phillips.
Yeah, so we've got water and sewer there,
Would the sewer be there without the bathroom?
yeah, the sewer is currently there.
Okay. I mean, and connected to it'll be connected to the pump house without the bathrooms
Yeah, because we'd have sinks and other, items there
in the pump house?
in the pump house.
Okay. Well, it's kind of like the blue one by the kayak. You know, I just question, do we have to offer a bathroom?
Yeah.
When they're, yes or no?
No, I was just,
And I mean, I just see them picking it up. I don't see anybody, I drive by it all the time. I never see anybody actually use it. I'm not gonna sit there and watch it, but I just, you know, sometimes the theory of what we need and what we actually don't need, I'm just wondering, you know, do we have to offer a bathroom I mean, they're going down the river, they get out in Schofield, and yet we're offering, you know, that bathroom there. And if we're using that as a changing facility, that'd be a little disgusting to change inside of that small of a bathroom, you know, that little teeny blue thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just questioning the pump house because, you know, if we're doing it for our utility staff, I mean, and if we don't have it anywhere else,
Yeah.
you know, we can certainly stop in their routes at
Yeah.
Quick Trip.
I mean, we have bathrooms at some of our other well sites,
We do.
or lift stations, yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought I just asked that and you said, no, there was no other bathroom.
Oh, no,
Oh, but not public.
yeah, not public bathrooms, sorry.
Well, and opening it to public is a whole nother baby.
Yeah.
That's a big, big issue, you know, that now you got cleaning, you got all kinds of other stuff going on. If it's just for, you know, boy, to put a bathroom in every one of those, when they can just stop at a Quick Trip, that's a lot of money.
What?
Did any of this recommendation or idea come through from the Parks Committee as something that they were looking for?
We talked about it as part of our capital improvement plan with, the Parks Committee as far as a shelter. I mean, we can definitely take it back to them. I mean, this is a contract to approve the design, you know, so if we want to change the scope on that, we can.
That was gonna be my second question. Does us approving this contract necessarily lock us into the idea of having a bathroom because we're asking them to design that, or?
No, I mean, if they design it and we say, hey, we don't want that, you know, it gets cut out of the final design and when it gets out to bid, there would just not be a bathroom as part of that. You know, so this is a map of kind of where so well 1 is actually where the well 7 is located. So, and then my red circle is where the pump house would be, and well 2 is where well 8 would be. So the initial thought was putting a bathroom over here, but there's rules on how close you can have a sanitary line to a well. And trying to lay that out just didn't seem to work, so the thought was, okay, if we have bathrooms here, somebody can park their car or, you know, as they finish up a round, but, you know, again, maybe we overthought it and that's an amenity we don't have to worry about having too. So,
Do we know where is the rock in there?
what was that?
The rock?
Around the parking lot? Or, yeah, I mean, the parking lot will get redone as part of all this.
No,
Talking
the
about depth.
bedrock.
Oh, the bedrock. Oh.
I thought they excavate in that area, Gary did excavation in that area for the topsoil and they remove a lot of material. And you should be pretty close in that area.
The well designed, it was in the 100-foot range, so as I recall.
Yeah. 115?
115, which is pretty similar to all the other wells we have in our system.
Yeah. Yeah, the 2 wells would be installed, each having a total depth of 115 feet.
Yep.
Pumping capacity of 900 gallons per minute.
How far they're apart? I'm sure they calculates the
Yeah.
drawdown.
Right, it was modeled, the test pumping was monitoring the drawdown at the second well site.
Okay.
So the conclusion was it could support 2 wells.
All right.
Quick question, I guess we don't currently offer, at Yellow Banks Park, all we offer are pit toilets, correct? There's no,
Right, and those are gonna be replaced with portables this year because the pit toilets outlive their useful life and safety actually, so.
yeah, so I mean, I definitely see it just as not only as a utilizer of the park, but passing by every day to work. I definitely see a lot more usage at Yellow Banks than I do currently at the Frisbee golf course. And I think if we were gonna make improvements for bathrooms and stuff, it would make more sense to do it at Yellow Banks versus at this part of the park. I certainly don't wanna step on the toes of a Parks Committee or anything like that, but at this point, I don't see the need for it, other than having portable restrooms.
Sure, okay. Yeah, I guess our thought was we're gonna be putting in a new building that was gonna have running water and everything else. Yeah, I guess if that's a recommendation, we can definitely take that back and change the scope of the design too.
Can we make a motion that they reconsider the need for it at the Parks Committee?
Yeah, it's a motion to remand to the park committee.
Yeah, so I guess the topic on the agenda is to approve the contract, but if then you want to direct staff to change the.
Or is that gonna really hurt them time-wise?
Well, hasn't been designed, has it?
No, it's been conceptually designed, not final design, so.
Do we have that layout at least?
I don't, the email I got was they're hoping to have it to me by later this week, but.
Can you email it to us and then?
Yeah, I can email it to you, but if there is a direction that, you guys wouldn't favor that, we could take that to the park committee.
Well, let's do that. At least let them have another look at it at the meeting and did they approve that? Park committee approve that?
I believe so, back late 2019, early 2020, but.
Okay.
So are you looking for a motion to approve the contract?
Yeah, I mean, they can get.
Direct staff to work with the Parks Committee on design?
Yeah, I guess I would ask AECom to, work on the pump design and, the chemical feed area and all those items to the engineer, and then if, it's just the bathroom portion of it that we nix later, they'd at least be making progress on the rest of the design.
So I'll make a motion to approve the contract and to direct staff to work with the Parks Committee on any park improvements at that location.
Okay.
Outside of the well project.
Sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Question.
Yep.
That change order or amendment is about 132,000?
Yep.
That's pretty big. But the reason I'm saying that for a contractor, according to statute, your change order should not exceed more than 25% of the contract.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this applies to the professional service or not. Maybe you want to review that.
Yeah, I asked them about their language. I think that it goes back to the original contract with them in 2018 where it said any changes to the contract were considered change orders. I think historically I would call this a contract amendment because it's a new service that was outside the initial scope. So they just didn't want to have to take it back to their legal to change the word change order out of it. But yeah, I can follow up with them.
Would you please?
Yep.
They are in their own, we are over here.
Yep.
We gotta make sure we do our homework and admit the statute. This is on section 66.
Yep.
I know it is there with regard to the contractor and also with regard to the professional service, but I can't remember if they made a comment with regard to the change order.
Okay.
All right? Thank you.
We need to vote.
Any other question?
We need to actually.
Right, yeah. Is there any other question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 13. Discussion regarding special assessment method for Ryan Street Apache Lane Utility Looping Project.
All right, let me try to jump in on this one.
Go for it.
There's a lot of material that's put in your packet on this one, and there's some historical discussion we've had about this item. I guess one thing that we wrestle with is, should we provide some kind of upfront incentives or some other way to maybe minimize the impact of extension of public sewer and water and try to get people to connect sooner rather than later. I mean, like, we can obviously tell them to connect and say the improvement's there and you're therefore required to connect within a year. And, I guess, are we here to make friends? I don't know, I guess that, but I mean, there's a reality that it costs people money, it costs us money, when it costs us money, it costs the rest of our customers money. But I think at some point, we need to come up with some way to make this a little bit more of a kind of a give and take. And I think one thing we talked about was maybe keeping the cost of connection to public sewer and water somewhere near the cost of a private system replacement. So in this mess of stuff that you received, the most recent thing we talked about was maybe trying to offer some kind of an upfront, maybe a discount even on on a connection. And I think the place we have that we can maybe do some adjustments is on the unregulated sewer utility side. I haven't proposed anything done with water because that's Public Service Commission. We have certain rules we're supposed to follow and things like that. What I gave you here right now is just kind of looking at what the proposal that we put together and proposed in these samples or the draft special assessment report was, say if people connected to the public sewer and water in year one, we'd give a 25% discount off the capital cost of the sewer and also waiving the interest. And then over that first 10-year period, reduce that discount by 2.5% or the same amount every year annually for 10 years and waive any interest that would accumulate during that time. So the two tables, I put these in the packet if you want to open that Excel spreadsheet up, just to kind of look at what the implications of that would be. If someone were to receive the estimated special assessments on this project, we're crossing the river here and going into this Apache Lane, I guess it's called the Riverbend Estates area. I may have the subdivision name wrong, actually. So this is the table that you received just now in hard copy. There's actually two different scenarios. I didn't title the first one, unfortunately. The second one, the first one assumes that interest is going to reduce annually because we're theoretically paying off the principal. The second one just has the same interest year by year since the principal is not changing, assuming that it's being deferred. There's not a huge difference. The capital cost of both together, $19,630. There's also a connection fee, what we call a sanitary sewer hookup fee of $500 plus a reserve capacity assessment for oversizing of sewer system that has been in place since late 90s, of $725. So those are irrespective. Those are in addition to anything you see here. And then there's also costs on private property that people have to connect and to convert their systems over. So I guess my thought is that, having offer this discount, you see it's in the range of $2,400, $2,600, depending on the year. Hopefully offsets the cost of getting that private system connected. So the second page of that is just titled Scenario 2. That would be if we're assuming that the interest is not getting paid off over time, so there's, again, not a substantial difference. I guess that's the recommendation we were making in this draft special assessment report, kind of cutting to the chase on this, because I think we need to provide something that's going to be, somewhat of a compromise to what, and keep that cost closer to what a private system replacement might be. When you compare water and sewer. And as we've talked, when this happens, somebody's well fails or somebody's septic system fails, it's never both at the same time usually. And part of the principle of this project, of course, is we're creating a loop across the river. I don't know, Michael's gonna put the map up. That just it's our newer members here oriented on where we are.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Farther?
Yes, I'm sorry.
for those of you who are here for the Plan Commission meeting, we're still in the Public Works and Utility meeting. Plan Commission will be
A bit late.
a bit late,
Yes,
so, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sorry for the interruption.
no problem. Sit down and continue.
So I guess another reason that brought us to kind of put this proposal together is that, this project is going into a neighborhood that has currently private systems. And we had meetings with this neighborhood or neighborhoods like this back in the early 2000s. 2010, somewhere in there, between 2000 and 2010 probably. Maybe back then, so let's say 15 years ago even. And, it always comes back to, there's a substantial cost. One thing that has been removed is we've not included, and we've taken out of our special assessment policy, charging for the street replacement costs. So that brings it down substantially from what it might have been otherwise. And again, we have some room if we wish to use some other creative incentives on the sewer side. I guess I am in favor of doing that, so I guess I'm kind of throwing it out to the committee as to what their thoughts are on this type of proposal, or if you want to see something different, or don't want to see anything at all.
Well, that was just a couple question. I think you said they connected in first 10 years. Is that the cost?
I'm sorry?
If they connected with the period of first 10 years, that's the cost?
That's what this would be based on, yes, and we would make connection mandatory then after 10 years. Would be my proposal.
Well, they have to do it after 10 years.
Yeah, I guess if you look at the proposed language in there.
And then my other question is, we can get back to these, my other question is, if the septic system failed, you don't know about it because they go for permit to the county or they come to the village.
Well, what the county does is they contact us.
What they
To
do?
make a determination if public sewer is available. Remember, we had that discussion for the property off of Costa Lane,
Right, yep.
and, that was, happened to be a joint meeting, but, it's a question that's brought to the Public Works Committee for a decision. At least if there's a question on the part of staff, I guess, again, we use this, sometimes we try to make a judgment, is it too expensive? And, what makes it available or not available? So I think if we keep it towards closer to the cost of a private system, then I think we're being a little more fair to the customers.
Correct, correct.
What's been the past practice
On special
when
assessments.
you've extended sewer and water?
We
Or
have,
is this more expensive because you're crossing the river?
well, we're leaving just to explain, I guess, if we have costs, extraordinary costs that are related to just the backbone of the system to try to, say, extend the system or loop the system, we're gonna leave those out of the calculation. So in this case, anything related to bridging that gap between Ryan Street and Trotzer Lane, those costs are not gonna be included in this proposal. And then the same thing would be true with any extra size. So there's gonna be 12-inch water main, larger diameter sewer if it's deeper. Those kind of costs are left out of any calculation. So it's the cost for the 8-inch minimum size water and sewer and the lateral costs that are passed on. There's also some soft costs in there, if you will, the engineering. I suppose there's some discretion if we include some of those, and if we can reduce the capital cost and then say we're assessing 100% of it. Typically, we do include the engineering or proportion the engineering costs as well. But those things are somewhat discretionary, I guess, but we've always calculated them on a project by project basis. So we're just trying to be consistent in principle, I guess.
So this is consistent with past practice.
Well, not offering a discount, if you will, or a upfront discount to incentivize connection. In other cases, we've always, special assessed what the costs are and, it's done and you need to connect. So it just became I guess it was up in these neighborhoods where we started getting, a lot of questions, does it really need to happen or not? And our system does need another crossing the river. There's other development that would be taking place. We know that systems have finite lives. We get questions on and off. All these areas don't fail or need replacement at the same time. Maybe nothing ever happens, but I know there is some interest in further development and I think coming up with some way to lessen the blow would be beneficial or be advisable, I guess, in my opinion.
Ultimately, scenario one is a little bit more of a discount, correct? Am I reading that right?
Well, it's just a way of showing, I guess it depends on how you're looking at it. The interest is being paid. If our principal is going down annually, which it is, because we're actually paying the principal due to having borrowed money for the project overall. In reality, our interest rate is 1.5%, but we always say we increase it a percentage for other administrative costs. So you can look at it as we're paying down the interest or the principal over time, or just say, the principal is remaining there until we start making payments. That's the only difference between the two, really.
Okay.
It's the matter how we're looking at the interest.
So
You have a question? Go ahead.
to answer my question, yes?
Yes, you would be in favor of offering
The
a
greater,
incentive with
the greater
a
incentive.
discount on the sewer, as was discussed in here. And 25% year one that reduces then by an equal amount annually through 10 years down to zero. And then at that point, no more incentive and any accumulated interest be paid, I think is what we indicated here. This would be discussed at a public hearing and would have to be rehashed at that point if there's any desire to make any changes.
And then this is only for this area. If you extend the sewer and water later on to the rest of the area, that's probably gonna be higher assessment because of time.
Probably would be, or we could also elect to continue this as we go into these other areas that have the existing systems. Again, I think it's gonna be an ongoing question. But trying to, and then as we get into serving new areas, it becomes less of an issue, I think. Then I think we do need to hold more to the, the costs are what the costs are kind of philosophy.
But I think the problem is the rest of this area, if their system fail, they're gonna get the opportunity to put the new system in. And then you go 5 years later, it's pretty difficult because they already spent $20,000 or $30,000 on their system. Then we want to provide the sewer and water to them, and it'd be challenging.
Well, I guess that's always a question that comes up as we talk about getting into, serving areas like this.
right?
Again, they don't all need attention at the same time, so. I guess, the other idea is we would certainly bounce this idea off our village attorney before we, I guess, put it in final form in a special assessment report. Okay, so if you were in favor of us looking at that, maybe that would be a recommendation we'd like to explore then further.
I move that or that the cost for the sewer and water be incentivized as part of the Ryan Street Apache Lane Utility Extension Project. And then the amount, if I'm interpreting what you're looking for correctly, that the ultimate amounts be decided at the public hearing. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, probably, maybe the better way to put it would be ultimately the specific terms would be determined at the public hearing.
Okay. So then that is my motion.
Did you correct it? Did you correct that? The
To-
motion?
3 seconds.
Teresa,
Yes, I did.
did you correct the motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Question? Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 14, discussion regarding normal May. What is that?
Glad you asked. And I know that we are getting a little short of time. Thank you, everyone in the Plan Commission for your patience. I'll try and be quick about this. So NOMO May, is this, not so much movement, but understanding that, after winters, bees and other pollinators, struggle finding food. The city of Appleton has already passed this, the city of Wausau passed this, and it actually started in the United Kingdom, made its way over to Canada and now over to here. So what No Mow May is it's a municipality voluntarily relaxing its weed and the grass ordinances for the month of May so that bees and other pollinators get food. This helps this helps them by finding food, making flowers healthier early on, getting a faster start on vegetables, and I know that certainly a lot of residents enjoy gardening and having their own flower beds. So I think that by adopting No Mow May, the village of Weston would help to have a more healthy ecosystem and an overall more beautiful village-scape with the amount of flower beds. Again, this is entirely voluntary. It costs the village nothing. It costs taxpayers nothing. It's largely a symbolic gesture, but for the month of May, we don't fine anyone for having lawns or grass heights too high.
I personally don't have a problem with the idea of it. I think the whole point of it now seems a little pointless because by the time this were to go to the village board, we'd be about 3/4 through the month. I've been unknowingly participating in this program. So, I mean, I see the merit to it. I think putting this out, seems pointless at this point. I think it'd be something great for us to look into for next year so that we're ahead of the ball and people can get the signs and I know that there's like registering with the program and things like that, but personally, I think we're a little late to the party here.
And I certainly, understand, where you're coming from. Yeah, it's a little late this year. However, since we are still in May, even if we are a little late in adopting it this year, at the very least, it's on the books for next year, so. Course of peace.
I mean, would staff generally be issuing citations to people for grasping too tall this early in the season?
It wouldn't get that tall really, but it does, if you don't mow it for a month, when you're gonna cut it, you're gonna cut it at least a couple times because it's a lot of grass to pick up.
Well, it's one thing for a property owner not to mow their own lawn, but sometimes it's the neighbors that have the issue with it, not the particular property owner, so.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody else? Do we have to approve these or what?
Yeah,
Is it, how is on the agenda?
It was just as the discussion, so I guess it's on the agenda, so you can make a motion on it if you would like, otherwise, there's no, I guess, there's no cover page or staff report necessarily for it, so.
this was strictly my request.
And Mr. Donna, does it approve, or does it has to be approved by the board also?
I believe it would have to go to the board. There's probably a discussion that would be necessary at plan commission eventually, but the board, I think, would be the next place to stop right now. So if you want to recommend the board discuss this on the 17th, it could be added to the agenda.
That should be the motion to recommend it to the board, so.
We elicited staff input on the issue at this point? Or is this new to staff? My only concern is it's going to cause them some issue that we're not aware of.
This is new to staff. I'm happy to, work with, Director Wodolski or Clerk Weinkoff in order to mitigate the amount of staff work that goes into this, but looking over the ordinances and, some other procedures, I didn't think that this would have any real impact on staff.
It just comes down to enforcing the nuisance, the weed element. I believe your grass needs to be 8 inches tall before it's considered a nuisance, a property nuisance, so. Maybe to the first, one of the questions earlier, I don't know if many people's lawns necessarily will get to 8 inches in May, but, again, though that's our zoning department takes care of that, so it's actually not me, so maybe I shouldn't speak for them.
Okay. I'll accept the motion to recommend it to the Board of Trustees for consideration. Is there a motion
I'll make the motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees.
for consideration?
Yes.
Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion? Question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
One no.
Move for division. Roll call vote. I didn't hear you or Mr. Mumper.
I did not vote. I
Okay.
don't vote until it's time,
Okay,
all right?
That was affirmative.
okay, thank you. Never mind.
All right. Resolution and ordinance, item 15, resolution number 2021-011, authorizing resolution for a special assessment for street improvement for the Crestwood Acre Neighborhood Reconstruction Project.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, April 28th, we had the special assessment hearing for the Crestwood Acres neighborhood. I guess the main question really during the hearing was about sidewalks, which, current village subdivision code requires sidewalk on newly constructed or completely reconstructed streets. I guess the only other questions were kind of construction related regarding, access to people's properties, mailbox location, what do I do with my garbage? I guess the typical things that we would expect to have. But as far as the assessment itself goes, the driveway aprons are the only part of the project being assessed in between the back of the concrete shoulder and the front of the sidewalk. The average assessment for the aprons is $1,494.88. Per our special assessment ordinance, the average principal amount of assessments is over $1,000. The village board may, but it's not required, to extend the number of annual installments to more than 5 but not greater than 10 installments. So it was discussed at the hearing that a 10-year payment plan would be likely recommended by the committee per past practices. So I guess, unless you want me to go through the whole resolution, but I guess essentially it just goes through the, I guess it would finalize that preliminary amount of the driveway apron assessment for the project. And we'd then have the resolution published and sent to all the property owners on the project.
I move to recommend that the village board approve resolution 2021-11, authorizing resolution for special assessments for drive approach construction for the Crestwood Acres neighborhood reconstruction project.
Is there a second?
I second.
You did that?
Yep.
All right. Just a question I have for Michael. Michael, the assessment here is so low just because it's reconstruction, am I correct?
What was that?
The assessment.
Yeah.
Is very low,
Yeah.
just because of reconstruction.
Correct, yeah. So our assessment policy only assesses you for, I guess as far as streets or other water sewer infrastructure is concerned, we only assess if you currently don't have something. So, the Apache Lane one, as we talked about, they currently don't have water and sewer. So if water and sewer is extended, then you get assessed for that new feature. But, this neighborhood already has a street, so we don't special assess for the street anymore. They currently have water and sewer service, so we don't assess for water and sewer service. So it's really just I guess the reasoning for the driveway apron is if somebody's driveway wasn't there, that cost wouldn't be incurred on the project because you just wouldn't put concrete there, you'd have grass instead, so.
I just want you to state that because we just approved.
Yep.
Huge assessment comparing with this one.
Right.
Any other question?
Just for full disclosure, Mr. Feeney and I both live in this area, so we're both voting to assess ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's reasonable.
Yep.
In my eyes.
And the assessment is based on actual measured square footage of each driveway apron, so it's, I have it in here somewhere, but it's like $5 and some cents a square foot. So if somebody has a larger apron, they get a larger assessment, or if you have 2 driveways, you get assessed for each driveway. So I guess just it is it's $5.86 per square foot, so.
All right, thank you. Any other question?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just with your point about the difference between reconstruction on sewer and water and new
Yes.
construction?
Yes.
Existing customers are paying for depreciation of the system, which is being collected as part of the rates that are being paid, so that's why we don't special assess for replacement,
yes,
just to be clear.
thank you,
Okay?
thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Future item 16, Monday, June 14 at 4:30 PM and Monday, July 12 at 4:30 PM. Topic for future meeting, item 17, is there anything? None? Item 18, remark from administrator, Mr. Donner.
Nothing more.
19, remark from staff. Gentlemen, you have anything?
Welcome to
Thank you.
committee members.
And I might be doing this backwards, but for the new committee members, I am Michael Wadowski, Director of Public Works, Josh Swanson, our Utility Superintendent, Dan Raskowski, our Deputy Director of Public Works, so kind of streets, drainage, Dan, water, sewer, utility, Josh.
And please,
Oh, and then Teresa Coleman is our utility clerk, so,
and if you don't know, Keith,
and then Keith Donner, our village administrator, so.
Yeah, sorry, I guess this kind of got a little awkward tonight.
Yes, I'll take responsibility for it, but it wasn't on the agenda, so that's my scapegoat. All right, thank you. That was remark from staff. remark from committee member? Anybody? Thank you. No announcement or accepted to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn?
There's a second.
Second.
Meeting adjourned at 5:25.
25. 6:25.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you.